is to just share a brief story. And so last month, we had a great speaker. Does anybody remember who spoke last month? How good was Chad?
Right.
Yeah.
Oh,
you see
man.
Chad, he's in the back. Yeah. So not only was he a speaker, but he's become a member. So let's give Chad a round of applause.
Yes.
So one thing that really just stands out, this is going to embody really who we are. So rather than, like I said, and then this is exactly how this went down. Chad comes up, he gives a great speech. He gets full side. Everybody's wanting to get pictures because he's a big deal. Somebody gets a picture. They start having a conversation with this individual, and he exchanged a little bit of dialogue. And in the dialogue, they came to the conclusion that it actually made sense for them to have a further discussion. And then this person knew that I knew Chad, and so they reached out. And so they could have done one of two things. They could have, pitched Chad, gotten his inbox, done all kinds of stuff, which would have been appropriate. They shook hands. He said, "Yeah, let's talk later." But she went that extra step, right? She ran into me at a conference last week, and she said, "Hey, Jason, I think you know Chad." And we had a pretty healthy dialogue about what it is that I do. And I was just hoping that you could for introduction, so we could actually carry the conversation forward. So I reach out to Chad and I say, "Hey, Chad, I want to honor our relationship. I want to honor the fact that you stood up in front of that room with me. You came out with a speaker for our organization, and I don't want to put you out to the wolves and have everybody every time you walk in the room, have everybody trying to tell you something. So would it be okay if I made an introduction to a great human being, to a great person in this network, and then had them perhaps give you some more education on what they're doing? In worst case scenarios, I can promise you this: they're going to handle you with white gloves. They're going to treat you fantastically. But would you be okay with that introduction?" And Chad's response, "Hell no. I'm doing it, but you got to quit that." So Chad's response was absolutely, right? And so now, what does that mean? Do not come to me after this meeting and message me with every one of your services and ask for me to introduce you to Chad. That's the first thing that it means. Okay. But it means that the way that we do this is real simple. We love, and our mission is about networking, connecting, serving. How do you do it? How do you build a community where not only an owner can walk into this room and say, "Absolutely, I get educated and edified on what's happening in M&A markets, and then I have a huge resource of people in here who can serve me and take great care of me," and we can do that through the relationships that we build. So again, rather than read from the slide, I hope that illustrates for you what we're about, because it's a perfect illustration of who we stand for, our mission and values, and what we are at M&A Forum. So thank you.
I'd love to introduce our leadership here. As I mentioned, I serve as your president. As you can see on the board, I won't name all the names, but could I have a board members who are here please stand up? I'd like to thank you all firstly for the work that you've done and the help that you've provided to get us here today. So thank you very much for your service. So our sponsor highlight is none other than our very own Melissa Taylor with Melton and Melton.
Thank you guys so much. I know you guys know me really as the event chair for M&A Forum, which is awesome, by the way. But what I do for a day job is really fun too. So I work for an accounting firm. Why is that fun? Well, I do the marketing and business development for them. So as I was just telling somebody earlier today, I think on the exact opposite side of my brain than everyone that I work with. So it's a lot of fun trying to translate to and from. Here's the things that I know about this firm though, and things that really just ring true and hold true for 62 years. Yes, we're in public accounting. We're the only office here is in Houston. It means that we're accessible to your clients. We want to come out, we really want to build a relationship with you. We do tax, audit, advisory work, sure. But really, what does that mean? We wanted to actually know you. We wanted to know how we can help your business and see how we can propel it forward. How we can do tax strategies. How can we help you secure some additional funding to move forward? Or if you just have questions about what the hell is going on this year, we're going to try to help you too. But just remember, we just learned about this when you did as well. So we need a little bit of grace, and let's learn with together, and let's learn with each other, with your again, what I do is for business development and marketing. So if I personally can help you, if I can introduce you to anybody in my office, I really would love to do that. I was talking with somebody else here that uses one of our, actually Ashley, that spoke at a panel a few months ago, that uses her for her tax services. And super exciting. She fits the box. She's a tax accountant. Let's be real. But she's also wonderful, and she's worn. And I was just in her office yesterday talking about a client and how she's been able to just help them make it better. That's really what we want to do. So I can tell you some numbers. I can tell you we have 20 partners, 20 active partners. I can tell you that we have 68 CPAs that work with us. I can tell you that we have 130 trained professionals and about 152, 53 in total that work with us. I can tell you that makes us, as of right now, according to HBJ, the largest privately held public accounting firm here in Houston. I can say all those things, but again, it doesn't really mean anything until we know you and how we can help. So if I personally can be of any service to you, please do let me know. I would really love that. Thank you. And thank you. Yeah.
Okay, so the next summary, Gary talked about our membership. I'll bring up Jason Jimenez, but a quick second. You do not have to be a board member to be a platinum sponsor, but all of us have been part of M&A for many, many years. And this is what our company is. So just know that because you have plenty of other platinum sponsors, platinum sponsors that are not board members. I wanted to make that a quick note. Okay, Jason Jimenez, please. Center, London Center.
Good day, everybody. How is everybody doing today? Awesome. First of all, thank you very much for being here. My name is Jason Jimenez. If you don't know who I am, please note that I am the individual that is responsible for making sure that you are comfortable being part of this organization. And so before I begin, what I'd like to be able to do is introduce you to some individuals who are helping me to fill this. So if I can ask Lydia, Ellen, and Anil, I can ask you to come, please. So I'm asking Nadia and Ellen to come up because they help you, the organization, with the membership committee. We are your membership committee. And so what I'd be able to do is I want to be able to share with y'all a little perspective of our job is. Our job is to make sure that you know exactly why you're here. Our job is to make sure that you understand all the values that we have to provide. Where we're actually heading, what we're building. We have a board that is committed to making sure that you understand the value of not only the process and the sequence of the M&A transaction, but who you need to talk to. Why do you need to talk to them? Who exactly is missing in your network that we can actually connect you with? Also, at the same time, if you have any problems, any issues, anything that you would like to see that you currently don't see, there's a lot of the feedback because you are one exit successful. The ability to bring great speakers, the ability to create great events, to be able to move you forward, to put money in the bucket while creating opportunities is what we're committed to. Really collaborations, creating culture, creating really a culture of being good here. So, with no further ado, I'd love for you to introduce Ellen and Nadia so that they can introduce themselves and a little bit about who they are and what they're doing.
Hi, everybody. I think most of you have seen me when you walk in. I'm Ellen Williams. I'm the CEO and Senior Analyst at the Salient Strategist, and I help businesses go from stuck to scale with business process improvement and technology alignment. I joined the M&A Forum about 6 months ago. I had come to a lot of events last year and then missed a bunch and knew that this is where I needed to be. I moved to Texas last year from New York City. And when I started networking, this was the group who understood what I was talking about. So I cheer everyone here and look forward to, if I have this ability, to meeting you speak.
Hi, everyone. I'm Nydia. I'm the Business Expansion and Acquisition Advisor for Sutherland Holdings International. We are an investment firm looking to acquire businesses with strong legacy and untapped growth potential. We offer capital and operational expertise and strategies for growth. And we're looking primarily in the lower middle market, anywhere with revenues between 5 and 25 million. And yeah, we're looking for we're looking to find anyone looking to exit and wanting to learn more. I hope that we can connect and see if we can help you in any kind of way. And similar to Ellen, I think this networking group is just amazing. Everyone is pretty focused on deals and how we can all help with deals, and I'm happy to be a part of that.
So, to the individuals, because this is your first time visiting the M&A Forum, I ask you to please get together with one of us so we can talk to you and set up an appointment to tell you about who we are, what we do, and why you actually should be a part of this community. Thank you very much.
Yeah, we gotta work on our process a little bit because we always have to look up. So we're working on it. Certain problems, but. Hey, I made a comment too.
Who can read? Like everyone is so cool. So me too, and that's what I'm going to turn around and do, which is not something you're supposed to do. Oh, right. I'm super excited about this one. So this is Ali Desinger, and that's if you were here last month, I cannot say this at all. It's like the women's business, women in small. Oh, it's National Women's Small Business Month. Can I get a round of applause? That was hard. Thank you. So I'm really excited about that one. And invite your female business owners. I can't believe I'm doing this. And then Veterans Day. This was obviously a very important one, close to my heart as well. November 11th. And of course, the next one is January 27th. So after November, it will be sayonara until 2026, which means we only have 2 more lunches. I would love to see you at them. So let me. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. One quick note. We have Dominic. Is Dominic here? Oh, there he is. Oh, we have a quick announcement from Dominic. We're working on a co-sponsorship, so I'll let you introduce and do all the work. All right, Dominic, you're free, everyone.
Hey, good afternoon. Thank you for letting me interrupt the program and real quickly. There we go. So I'm here to talk to you guys about the ETA conference that Rice is putting on here in October. We're really excited about the conference this year, and we're super excited that the M&A Forum has allowed us or has come on as a community partner to help us promote the event. It's amazing what you guys are doing to see the organization grow. So just real quickly, for those of you who may not know what the acronym ETA is, it's just small business acquisition, and people decided to get some terminology on it. MBA schools have really picked up this as a pathway for people, and Rice has been teaching it for over 30 years now. So we're excited to put on the conference. It's October the 17th. We're going to be selling between 350 and 400 tickets. So if you're an investor, if you're a service provider that works in the SMB, low middle market space, really events be part curriculum and part networking. So we'll have 4 panels, 2 networking two keynote speakers, and about 2.5 hours of structured networking. So we're looking forward to being a really awesome event, and we really hope you guys will consider joining us. Thanks.
Thank you.
I just remember what I was going to say when I was closing out. There's extra boxes back here for lunch, so I know we're not going to get the chance to talk to you again. So if you want extra or want to bring some back to your office, please do. Okay.
Please do. In honor of Veterans Day in November, we just want to make a very quick, short check-in announcement for the West Point Entrepreneurs Houston Roadshow. It is October 21st to 22nd. It's just a promise I made to a good man. So if you're interested, let me know. I'll send you some information, but we'll call you soon. I'll do those. Well, I'm sure Oasis will help us with that. So, with no further ado, Oasis Crochet, please come front and center, and we'll let you do this.
All right. Thank you, Gretchen. Can everyone hear me? How do I sound? There it is. Okay. So I'm Awais Qureshi. I serve as the programs and marketing chair here at M&A Forum. Give you a quick background on what I do professionally. I've been helping lower middle market companies build their brand and essentially accelerate growth. And here's what I've seen that's common amongst the ones that have accelerated their growth and really just increased their enterprise value at an exponential sort of a rate. They all do what they promise, right? But of course, everyone knows this. This is like an obvious thing. But what's behind what they do and what they delivering on what you promise is really the people, really the values, right? It's not what's written on the wall that determines what's done down the hall. All of those things need to match. Well, what I find is that it's those companies that not only attract best fit customers, it's not just those companies that attract best fit employees, but it's also those same companies that attract some really great investors, potential buyers that are willing to offer them not just a low multiple, but a premium one. One of those happened to be Bill Boffa. And really, he focuses on what's beyond just financial due diligence. Now, I'm sure there's a lot of detractors out there, a lot of skeptics who will say, this is not going to show up on the books. This is not going to show up in the financial statements. But you know what? Bill Boffa, from my conversations in preparing with him, what I found is that he looks way beyond that financial statement. He looks beyond financial due diligence to figure out exactly why is that company investable? Why is that company worth investing in? So without further ado, Bill Boffa, if you can please join us in front.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Elise. That was very kind. Is mine?
Yep. All right. So, Bill, let's start off with a little background on you.
Sure.
And also on Willistown Capital. What led you to even begin Willistown? I understand you have a bit of a diverse experience. So, what were you thinking?
Yeah, good. Very, very good question. Willistown's been around for probably 12 or 13 years now. I sort of have a first half of my career, which is pretty conventional. I was a CPA out of undergrad. I did a little stint in equity research in New York, and then took a job with a large publicly traded oil company out of business school. And unbeknownst to me, I think there was this entrepreneurial itch that I had to scratch. So I was, working overseas a lot, and decided that I needed to come back to the United States, and ended up working with a family friend who had a small portfolio of private businesses. So he was my first investor, and we did an investment together. Again, that was in 12 or 13, and have been fortunate enough to continue doing that for the last 12 or so years, and have been able to do some larger transactions.
Fantastic. So let's take a quick market pulse.
Okay.
As we always like to do here, particularly when it comes to investment capital. Over the course of the last 10 years, here's what's changed. Dry powder's doubled, 35% longer hold times.
Mm-hmm.
How's that making its way into what you're doing, and particularly when you're looking for companies,
Yep.
and then actually sitting down with business owners
Mm-hmm.
to see, okay, well, look, are we even actually going to be able to reach some sort of an agreement here?
Sure. Good question. Fortunately for me, I'd say it's a good thing. At the lower end of the middle market where we focus on businesses probably 15 or 20 million in revenue at the low end. More capital means it's more demand for quality businesses. which sort of pushes up valuations as a whole. And I think as a macro, you have bigger private equity firms that have bigger pools of capital. They're finding it harder and harder to put that money to work and sort of squeezing the opportunity to them. Fortunately for us, it hasn't had a big negative impact. And I think for business owners, if you have quality businesses and well run, and we'll talk more about sort of some of the attributes that make them attractive, I think it's a good market for.
Well, that's a great and that's a great segue. So I believe that in order to attract investment capital, you have to be investment capital worthy.
Mm-hmm.
So define what that looks like from Willistown's perspective.
Sure. You alluded to this at the beginning, and I appreciate it. We look at I would say, when we look at a business, our primary job is to really assess risk and identify opportunities. Most businesses that go to market for sale end up having a lot of eyes look at the business and look at the information. We're trying to identify sort of, if everyone has the same information set, there's a lot more detail and substance to a business, beyond what you can put in a confidential memorandum. So that's where we really try to focus to try to understand the sort of second, third, fourth levels, the details of the business that truly make up the value, at least in our opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. And every exit is a little different,
Mm-hmm.
right? From a business owner's perspective. Some are anticipating it, some are planning for it, and then there are others that aren't necessarily planning for it.
Mm-hmm.
What type of circumstances do you look for? And particularly the ones that you're speaking with, are they the ones that are purely very intentional in planning for that particular exit and saying, I'm looking for a capital partner? Or is it the other way around and it's very unanticipated and you're looking in and saying, you know what, this is a great opportunity, but we can do this at a much lower cost than what we had anticipated?
Both, and it runs the gamut. I mean, we really like to partner with business owners who are transitioning or haven't been able to make a decision or require some sort of capital for that kind of next stage of growth. There's a lot of responsibility and a lot of everything that goes into running a business. Just because you haven't done something to fix a problem or haven't sort of reached out and sort of tackled an opportunity, that's fine. It's understandable. That's ideally where we like to come in.
Fantastic. And of course, I alluded to this earlier during my intro. You're looking at beyond financial due diligence, right? So why don't you share with the audience exactly what that looks like? What else are you looking at that perhaps other might be missing or they're overlooking or undervaluing?
Sure. I'd say our primary criteria is culture, as it relates to employees, as it relates to customers. For, I would say, any business to be successful, you have to have customers, right? You have to generate revenue. The people who support your customers and support that revenue generation is your employees. Having, long tenured, well compensated employees who truly care about their jobs, that's where we see is sort of that is the foundation of sort of a, well-run and sort of enduring business.
Fantastic. And in terms of, your sort of philosophy after acquisition, you say you don't want to disrupt things, right? Well, if you don't disrupt things, if you don't shake things up, and I can say this from my own personal perspective, you're not going to create value. You're not going to change things. So I'm going to push back on you about that. And what do you do differently that, again, you're saying that you don't want to disrupt things, but you've got to be able to grow that in enterprise value.
Yep.
So what are we doing differently?
I think if I could reframe your question, I think there's shaking things up means two different things. It's shaking up the current operations or sort of making decisions that cause businesses and employees to be uncomfortable. If a business needs to be shaken up, that means something's not working, or typically means something that's not working. And we can go into, we would look at those situations, but oftentimes that takes a heavier hand
Yeah.
and sort of real sort of active changes to the business. What we, our shaking up, we typically enter a situation and there's a lot you can learn during due diligence. After due diligence, you learn a lot more, right? We don't want to make, ideally, too many active decisions without understanding the implications. So I would say initially, we truly want to assess and sort of understand, where the real drivers of the business are and the employees in the business. That said, we do want to try to grow, whether it's acquisition, whether it's internal, whether it's hiring new people, and sometimes that can shake things up. So, we want to, any growth opportunities we ideally decide as a management team or with the previous owner, we want to be thoughtful of the implications of those. And as long as we are thoughtful, then you can manage that shakeup ideally a lot better.
Well, I'm one thing stood out in this response, which was discomfort. And growth comes through discomfort. So what does discomfort look like for employees that, of course, induces growth rather than suppressing growth?
Sure. That's a big challenge, right? Because knowing that, the culture typically is what gets a business to a certain place. When you add growth, when you add more people, when you add another company potentially, there's a risk that you introduce to that culture. It's a lot of communication. It's a lot of making sure, we have the right people, in the right seats, so to say, such that we maintain focus on the important things that have gotten a business to its current position. That we maintain the service or the product that we provide to customers. At a minimum, you have to maintain that, right?
Yeah.
And then as we introduce different elements, that's the real challenge.
Certainly. Yeah, and your 100-day plan, particularly, it varies from firm to firm. But what stood out to me about yours was particularly that you want to make sure that you prioritize understanding that business, especially in scenarios where those companies might just say, this guy's an outsider coming in. He doesn't understand our business, right? So how do you convey that, and what questions maybe you're asking? And just more importantly, what are you doing? You're rolling your sleeves up and saying, you know what, I want to make sure we're committed to understanding this business.
Sure. I will say with near 100% certainty, I don't know any business owner's business as well as they do. Even if I know their business, I still don't know their particular business as well as them. I don't understand their culture. I don't know their employees. I don't know their employees, kids and wives and husbands' names. Those are the things that we need to get appreciation for and understand before we start making any kind of big decision.
Fantastic. And what can you promise to a business owner that traditional PE firms can't?
Good question. Our business, like everybody's, is very, very competitive. Me and my partners, I would say, somewhat different than other private equity firms. We've sort of grown up personally, but then also grown up professionally, having started a business, having worked in roles where, the trash was my responsibility, and an understanding and an appreciation for, all of the elements of the business rather than just sort of the high profile or board decision type things. We understand making a change here has multiple implications and appreciate all of those, right?
Yeah.
Rather than just sort of focusing on strategy and sort of higher level board type stuff.
Yeah. And there was a very specific conversation that stood out to me when we were prepping for this. It was about a business owner that said, man, I wish I met you guys about 20 years ago. So what happened in that particular scenario? And, how are you helping a lot of these business owners execute on the vision that perhaps they weren't able to just by themselves?
That's probably as good a compliment as we can get. This was an individual who's sort of, on his way to retirement, fully, transparent. He was sort of mid 60s. I think we introduced ideas, asked him questions, started to identify certain risks and opportunities that were not totally surprising to him. He just had never prioritized them. he maintained some equity in the business, so he had a real stake going forward. And I think we our investment and partnership with him created some energy that he had lost for 37 years, right? You kind of think there's ups and downs there.
Yeah.
So it's worked out well so far.
Fantastic. Let's talk about your deal of the year. So you were recognized for I believe it's two specific purchases.
Just well, it was one.
One, okay. So let's talk about that. What led up to that? How did you identify that opportunity in the first place?
Sure.
And what do you think? What were some of the attributes which allowed for you to essentially be recognized for deal of the year?
Yeah, it was. We won an award for the ACG Private Equity Deal of the Year this past February, I believe, or March. We identified that deal. The selling party, he had hired an advisor who coincidentally was a Houston firm. He also maintains a significant equity stake in the business. I think there's supposedly an independent committee who sort of looks at all the attributes of the deal. One of the things we try to do is, certainty to close is something that should be a high priority for a seller, for an advisor. We try to work with and hire advisors who we know can close a deal. So, and then there's also the complexity of the deal itself. So, I think we had a lot of good advisors. I think he had a lot of good advisors. We were able to work through some of the unique issues that the seller had that existed in the business. And ultimately we're able to close the deal. Sort of a contributing factor to the complexity was that we had an add-on to that initial investment that we ended up closing only 2 months later. So sort of added more stress and complexity.
Yeah.
So
talk
I don't
about
know
that
entirely, but I think that's part of the reason why we.
Well, tell us a little bit about what were the attributes in those two companies that really stood out to you, and you said, these are again worth investing in.
Sure. Well, the initial seller, he's a younger guy. I think he wanted to create some sort of financial security for his family, but then he also still had a desire to grow the business, and particularly with an add-on in the industry. So we brought capital to help accomplish both of those goals. He's very much our partner, truly our partner today. I was on a call with him this morning, kind of one of two weekly calls that we have. We've the investment and the business has been very successful to date. Hopefully he has, a similar opinion as I'm sort of describing today. But as close to an ideal situation as you can have for us.
Fantastic. And look, you've delved in so much into the culture first philosophy. If more investment firms, were to adopt that, what would the M&A landscape look like?
Probably a better one for business owners. And I think it's, things are trending that way, right? Differentiation, sort of competitiveness, sort of everyone. I don't want to say it's an angle because it's something that we truly, have lived and believe today. But we see it sort of, as an investment, right? There's lots of ways to assess, what makes a successful investment, right? Purely financial. But even then on what timeline, right? So, we're able to be somewhat flexible and think 10, 15, 20 years down the road. It might not have the highest immediate impact, but ultimately we're trying to make decisions that are right for the business kind of over any timeline.
Fantastic. And what's one thing that you'd like for the business owners to know, particularly as an investment partner that really looks at culture first?
Yep. Very, very good question.
And culture as an asset.
As an asset. There are potentially a lot of different people and groups who would be interested in owning your business. There's some wrong ones and there's some right ones, and there's probably not one right one. But being thoughtful and asking questions and understanding sort of the group's goals and how they approach them, I think is really key to making the right decision when it comes to sort of selling your business or taking on an investment partner.
Fantastic. I always like to end with this.
Okay.
And we'll open it up to the audience for Q&As after this. If you were to encapsulate your philosophy into 3 words, what would those 3 words be?
Good question. I don't know if I remember all the ones we talked about. I'd say trust is a huge one. You know, bringing on investment partners somewhat like a marriage, right? It might not be a till death do us part marriage, but it's a considerable sort of decision for an extended period of time. So trust for sure. Not one word, but being able to sort of back up what we do. If we make a commitment, we do our best to follow through. And as business owners, I think, dealing with employees and customers, you better be able to follow through. So sort of, fulfilling your commitments. And that's 2. Let me think of a 3rd. Trust, follow through. And then I'd say, just character. Again, like any relationship, we get to choose who we invest in, and business owners get to choose who they take on as investors. If you're going to be spending a lot of time and energy and dealing with difficult, situations, good or bad, with people, you better enjoy their company. So sort of kind of character and relationship, I'd say, is the 3rd.
Excellent. Well, Bill, let's open it up to the audience. Do we have a mic? Okay, fantastic. Okay. Nadir, and then Fred afterwards, and then Jen. Fred, for convenience, can we come to you after we do Jen? Yep, perfect.
Thank you for speaking. That was personally, as the culture branding guy, that spoke very deeply to my heart. So thank you. I actually had a sort of operational question. How do you physically operationally implement the procedures and processes that you're talking about to actually preserve culture and your brand, both with the customer in terms of the customer experience and the employees?
Yep. I think it depends a lot on each business, depending on how, I would say, how ingrained or how process oriented it is in a business, makes a big difference. If there are firm processes and well communicated steps to do so, I mean, that's a great situation for us because we don't need to do much. To the extent that there's not, we need to try to formalize that. That's, creating small teams, sometimes bringing in outside resources. But that is definitely key to maintaining that growth. And we've managed sort of, the range.
Cool. Thank you.
Sure. Yes, sir.
Greetings. Quick question without revealing too much, called confidential information. Can you describe a little bit on the SCG? You mentioned, I don't know what the size of that company was, what its employees, what your capital investment was, and what your plan was next.
Sure. I'll kind of stick to revenue. Initial revenue was between $20 and $30 million of the target business. I think maybe 120 employees. The add-on acquisition was sort of similar size, believe it or not, after the fact.
Thank you. You touched on this a little bit, but Peter Drucker's got a juicy quote that says, "Culture eats strategy for breakfast." So would you you mentioned things like the business owner knows the names of the wives and the kids and the hobbies and things. Would you just go a little bit deeper into what's an ideal, excellent culture and what's a culture that you would intentionally stay away from?
Sure. Good question. Hopefully I can answer it adequately. I'll start with the sort of, what's not a great culture. There are businesses, sometimes it's just the nature of the business, sometimes it's the culture itself, but sort of, employees with kind of high turnover, employees who are sort of paid under market, those are attributes that are really hard to manage and really difficult for us or really any business owner, or excuse me, any investor to come in and and it just takes time to sort of change those change those approaches. Sort of the second level be, in what we see as a sort of high performing culture. It's employees who communicate really clearly with each other. Employees who sort of share stories and positive stories and experience about each other. Employees who go the extra mile for customers. This is why always mentioned kind of initial diligence, right? We try to push and probe and try to get all this initial diligence, but it's really hard. So the first 100 days after the fact, this is where that's when we really ask a lot of questions and try to understand that next level, because if it is a strong culture and it helps sort of employees and customers, we don't want to make decisions that sort of disrupt that too much.
Yeah, you'd be surprised what shows up in both voice of employee and voice of customer
totally.
During due diligence specifically.
Yeah.
And I mean that'll certainly impact the multiples, right?
Yep.
So,
it does.
who else?
Just a quick question. You just kind of went fairly deep
Sure.
In the way to consider culture. Kind of the key factors that may make you make a positive or a negative assertion of that culture. When you're looking at deal flow, I'm sure you look at tens, hundreds, maybe more deals and maybe in a year. What are some proxies that you might use to be able to hydrate? That's a good culture. That's a good culture.
That's a good question. That's the real challenge for us. If it is a well-marketed deal, there might be 50 or 100 or even more eyes on the same set of information. I don't know how well to answer. Usually there's kind of one or two things that jump out. Oftentimes nothing comes of it, but oftentimes it's sort of kind of like a thread on a sweater, right? You start pulling and sort of leads to more and leads to more and leads to more.
Yeah.
Could you give an example?
Huh. Off the top of my head, no. I'd have to think about that more.
Yeah, so I'll keep double clicking on culture.
Sure. Sure.
So, like in most organizations, the middle management is really like driving the culture.
Yep.
Employees, and so that can always be a touchy subject from access standpoint.
Mm-hmm. It's very. Yeah, that's a good question. That's, Awais mentioned, you're probably not really going to get an employee survey done in diligence, or if you can, it's sometimes hard. But customer surveys is something we definitely look at. Sort of comping sort of pay ranges within an industry or within a competitive set. I mean, that's a big indicator. Pay is not the primary driver, I would say, of sort of employee and culture happiness level, but you can't be in the bottom half, right? So sort of as a quantitative way, that there are a couple ways we look at it.
Have you ever been in a situation where you were in the process of considering an investment and then culture then became very questionable experience, so has that caused you to retract those decisions?
It has, for sure. And one of the key attributes, or a couple of the key attributes, sort of trust and kind of character. A business owner's in a somewhat tricky spot, right? They're trying to present their business as positively as possible because they want it to be valued highly. That's everything that a business owner should be doing. But sometimes as we probe, as we ask questions, sort of certain things on its face there might not be as much substance to it. And that's, I would say, that's why I think in many cases, the business owner shouldn't always seek the highest value person, right? Or the highest value buyer, because you're potentially setting yourself up and the buyer for a situation that, it might not always work out as
and deals aren't structured like the way that they were.
Yeah.
So
that too, right?
Yeah.
Like oftentimes, at least in our world, there's very, very rarely a cash deal where a seller gets to walk away. So there's some sort of partnership,
They're on the
some
hook
sort
for
of
the next couple of years.
reliance for a period of time. And, I don't misrepresenting is a strong word, but if you over exaggerate something and it turns out not to be true, having to sort of deal with that after the fact, I think from both sides is not necessarily a fun thing to do.
Thank you for joining us.
Sure.
It's been some good stories so far. My question is, do you have a cooling off period after you close your deal? And then how soon do you start implementing your growth initiatives or whatever changes you're going to make, or things that you're going to execute on? What does that look like?
Good question. That is definitely deal by deal, and that's not the easy answer. I think it largely depends on how strong the culture is, how strong the, I'd say the talent level of the management, how well integrated it is before we get in. A highly performing team, if we're not really going to change anything and we, other than sort of very deliberate kind of initiatives, they're likely able to execute on those initiatives better than a team that's sort of having to be restructured, or, hey, this is a position that we need to hire for, that team's not going to be able to sort of, to meet some of those challenges as quickly. So it really does depend. And we have 2 portfolio companies now, and sort of the answer is, not quite extremes, but one's on one end and one's on the other.
So you kind of touched on the way that the deals are made today being structured maybe differently from the past. If you could a little bit more detail on like how often would you see like an owner earn out type of a deal, or as you said, probably almost never a cash deal, right? And then so that's like first part. And then for that sort of more on the owner earn out type of deal, what would be a normal multiple that you would see in that kind of scenario?
Good question. Yeah. I'm not sure if I can answer the multiple question specifically, but from our point of view, we like equity rollover more than anything else. It signifies sort of the business owner's confidence in the business going forward. It aligns us really, really well. Earnouts can be effective. They also sort of create potential challenges. We would really only use an earnout in a situation where an owner says, hey, I've got X amount of revenue and it just hasn't happened yet. We're willing to pay for that, but we can't pay for it today, right? If it's, hey, that's going to be X amount of revenue. If we need to hire these 3 people and get this new customer, that's a different, I'm not going to earn, it's hard to earn out something like that. So hopefully that sheds a little light.
I have a follow-up question on that.
Sure.
So, again, I think practically every situation we've talked about right now is actually finding that company and looking at culture from that particular aspect. How about upon acquiring that company and building it over the course of the next couple of years and really putting together the culture story so that it looks appealing to the next buyer? And particularly, are you looking for buyers and signaling to the right buyer that, look, we're so culture focused, it's not just about the EBITDA, but it's that culture that's driving that EBITDA.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we're doing. We're investing in the business, right? And investing in culture is the same as investing in a piece of equipment or hiring a new person, right? You have to have the right people in the right seats who know that they, and also give them the resources. And a lot of time resources is just time, right? If you have good employees, they likely want to do their job well and serve their customers well. But if somebody's overwhelmed, they're not that effective in doing that, right? So you need to find ways to allow them to sort of live out the culture even in certain instances. So.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions?
Hey, William, thanks for joining us. Sure. I was going to ask, talk about a lot about the identifying the right culture when you're on the buy side. How does it impact you when you're on the sell side?
Yeah, good. Good question. On the sales side, I would say it definitely allows you to realize more value if you're assuming you're selling the business. I think also, there are, and this just goes from kind of experience in seeing a lot of different businesses. There are a lot of small business owners who are the glue, right? It's really, assuming there's some sort of transition, whether it's, today or 2 or 3 or 4 years down the road, it's hard to change out the glue, right? And even if it's a great culture, right? So being able, or having a business owner being thoughtful about that in advance, having a plan, having executed on that plan, and if nothing else, just even acknowledging that, hey, I'm really important to this business, and I want to see, the culture. I want to, maintain the culture. I want to see it to be successful in the future. That's a conversation we can have, but unless there's that sort of understanding and realization, that's probably something we'd shy away from.
I've got room for one last question, and then we'll dismiss.
Thank you, Bertie. What would you want our biggest takeaway to be from you?
Very good question. Assuming the audience is small business owners, there are better buyers for your business than others. I mentioned earlier, someone willing to pay the most is not always the best buyer. With the underlying assumption that, you care about your employees, you care about your customers, you want to see the business to be successful in the future. There are better buyers than others.
Thank you, Bill. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Before you leave, these little things on your name tag, so if you can just save them in the basket for us, that'd be great.